Hi guys, today I thought I would give you a run through the latest issue of Go Classics. Why is this magazine good? Because I'm in it, that's why. But before we do that, make sure that you're subscribing to youtube.com/browncarguy. Follow me on browncarguy.com and all social media channels. You search my hashtag, which of course is hashtag browncarguy. And if you enjoy my content, think about supporting it and sponsoring it over at patreon.com/browncarguy. Cool, let's get into this right after this. As you can see, a lot of Mini Cooper content in this magazine. As you can see, buying guides and all the rest of it. Camping guide, 25 top starters. I'm going to go through this in detail. In fact, I've just looked through it. It is ram-packed with amazing content. I'm not just saying that. You know, obviously my column is in there. That's great. You've got to read that. But apart from that, I mean, there's stuff in here. I'm like, whoa, this is essential information. This is not only something that you want to buy and read this month. This is something you want to buy and keep because there's some incredible stuff. So, okay, let's go through some of that stuff. Obviously, we've got the contents page, some adverts. This is interesting. Here, look at this. So they are starting in Go Classics. The team are starting to sort out their own classics. And one of the classics is going to be a Zodiac, a Ford Zodiac. And they're hoping to get that ready. What is it? It used to be owned by the legendary cricket commentator Brian Jonas Johnston, CBE, who passed away in '94. So this apparently is his car, and they're hoping to have it ready in time for the Classic Motor Show at the NEC. So hopefully you can see it there. There's another little piece in here, just over here, about fake fuel lines. Now this is to do with the new E10 fuel, and there's another feature, I'll come to that in a minute in here, about what you should do, but this is just a little notice to beware of the fact that, and this is just the top piece of advice here, to beware of fake R9 spec hoses that are in the market. Yeah, be careful about that. This is interesting. This is laughing all the way to the bank. The current classics, which are the best money makers, that's always good advice and information. I'm not going to give you all of them, you have to buy the mag, but you know, there's stuff that makes obvious sense here, like a Jaguar Mark II, but there's stuff here that's maybe a little bit of a surprise, like the Ford Focus Mark I. Oh yeah, 7.7% increase. Information about a couple of iconic classics that are now available in electrified form. There's also details about modern classics and how they're doing in the market. So in the news section, a lot of great roundup and stuff like that. Here is event section. I've been to a few events this summer, but I didn't go to this one, which is the annual exceptional of the unexceptional show. That's that one right there. That looks like an absolute love. I didn't do that this year, and I think I've got to get over to it next year because that looks like a lot of fun. And I think that there are probably a lot of very ordinary cars that are now rather extraordinary just by the dint of them still existing and still being around and being loved and cherished. The Classic Carbine guide, of course, absolutely essential part of the magazine. And there's my column. There you go. First column in the mag. Check it out. Don't miss it. Very cool. I talk about how you can get classics that you may not be able to find here anymore, but if you want to go over to India with a bit of money and can book a container back, you can pick up quite a few things from there. So there's some top advice and information in there. Mini Cooper 1961 to 2000 buying guide in this thing. Now there's a buying guide for the classic Cooper, and of course these are actually quite hard to get now. You know, it wasn't so long ago that, you know, you'd pick them up for a few £100 and learn to drive it in and chuck them away. And unfortunately, because people have been chucking them away because of the scrappage schemes and stuff like that, very few of those left. They are rocketing in value, and there's a lot to look out for, so you might want to see this guide. Now, if you wanted to buy a modern Mini, the newer BMW Mini, there's a guide for that as well. So actually, they're both covered in the mag. That's pretty good, isn't it? So yeah, all the information that you need, comprehensive details. This is the continuation of Jeff Bailey, who's one of the founders. He's the roving editor at large, I believe, of the magazine, and he's continuing catalog of all the cars that he's owned, and it's absolutely extraordinary. Look at this. This is a 73 Jensen Healey owned which he crashed. Jensen Interceptor, kudos for that. But even things like a Ford Fiesta Popular from '84 and a Volvo 245 Estate. He's had a few Volvos actually, but I'm envious about this one. BX GTI, the 1989 Citroen. That's pretty cool. And this one, look at that. A Lincoln Continental Mark V. Whoa, what a beast of a thing to have. 79 Corvette. Now you're talking. But also Renault 5, I mean, very eclectic mix. Renault 5 GT Turbo as well. Loads of stuff there. What's this about? These are modifications that you should consider making to your classic car. So there's some very useful advice and information there, going one better. So you've got your classic car. So it's not about restoring. This is about improving it, making it better. So for example, cooling, how to improve your cooling. This is a good one. It's a number 2. It's about the fact that, if you're overhauling your engine, take the opportunity to fit a new cylinder head, convert it to accept unleaded fuel, and also obviously with the latest fuel issues, that should solve that problem as well. So there's a good bit of advice and information there also. For example, here about lights, because a lot of classic cars, there are now modern LED lights available for them, so they can just be slotted in. But of course, they give you far better lighting than you would find in a classic car, in some classic cars, which is actually quite pathetic, really, isn't it? Anyway, this is about converting classics to electric. Now, that's a really controversial area. There you go. Look at the back of that, and I think there's some examples here as well. So I think this is an interview, or is it just it's a question? Yeah, it's a kind of an interview format. Richard Morgan of Electric Classic Cars. And there's some Beetles that have been done. I know a friend who's actually doing that to a Beetle at the moment, and it's one of the areas that I personally was struggled with. The way I see it, I think that if there is a classic that's being restored and the engine's already dead, pretty much. And the option is to convert it to classic because you get more performance, to be fair, with a classic. Then it's worth looking at. And plus, you can still keep the manual gearbox. And a lot of modern EV cars don't have manual gearbox, they only have automatics. And these ones, you can actually keep the manual gearbox. And you can run them, So it's an interesting subject. I mean, I learned a lot more about it when I was doing the Tech Theatre live, when I was hosting that at the British Motor Show. And we had a couple of guys who do this on a regular basis coming up onto the panel or to the stage and talking a lot about it. So I learned a lot about it, and I can see the advantages of it. I can see the benefits of it. I still would hesitate to go, all right, let's take a perfectly good classic car, rip the engine out and put an electric motor in. However, I can certainly see the benefits of taking something that needs work, needs restoring, or the engine's just gone. Then you go, okay, well, let's convert it to classic. I'm warming to the idea, let's put it that way. I think I need to drive one really to totally be convinced. But yeah, like I said, I'm possibly warming to the idea. There is a GoClassics verdict on the issue there as well. We're undecided. Yeah, I know how you feel, guys. I know how the team feels. So what's this then? Is this more like Jeff Bailey living with a plug-in hybrid Porsche? So he's talking about living with his own car. They're talking about electrics. Are these electrics? Electrogenics. Oh, this is the electrogenics. So these are the guys that I was interviewing actually at the British Motor Show, and this is their Triumph Stag. So that's that. 10 half-century heroes. So they're looking at the year 1971, and they're looking at cars like the Alfa Saad and the Citroen GS. The Citroen C4 is kind of sort of said to be inspired by the Citroen GS. You got the Renault 1517. Isn't that the Fuego? Wasn't that the Fuego? I think it was called the Fuego, wasn't it? So stuff like that. But here's an interesting one. I didn't even know what that was. And I've never heard of it. It's called the Clan Crusader. Wow. The Clan Crusader. And it was actually made by, I think put together by a bunch of ex-Lotus employees. So really, I should have known about that one, but I didn't. So there you see, even I'm learning stuff from this mag. More stuff from 71. A chance to win. Don't forget there's a competition running in the mag as well. To win an MGB for a day. That's got to be worth it, hasn't it? That's got to be cool. So you get to win one of those and drive it around for a day. That's pretty awesome. And where do you drive it? Look at this. So this is about, if you thought that all enthusiasts wrap their classic cars in cotton wool, you obviously haven't been on a classic rally. And to prove the point, look at this. I mean, here you can see what's happening to the MG there. But look at that SL. Look at that. Look what's going on there. This is like an episode of Grand Tour at its best, isn't it? Not at its worst, but at its best. So that's look what's happening to the. Look, some people might be horrified at that picture, but I think that's absolutely glorious. Look what's happening to that E-Type there. So that's what that's about. People actually using their classics the way that they're meant to be used. That's that feature. And then you've got fancy and exotic GT. So this is a potential Grand Tourers that you should consider buying. So classic and modern classic Grand Tourer. So they've got obviously, it's a very pretty car, but I would hesitate to recommend that particular Maserati. Look, I know a friend who had that and he had no end of issues with it. That I would recommend 928 definitely, and I think that's well worth it. It was ahead of its time in the day. It was ahead of its time. Most beautiful of the modern Aston Martin iterations. DB7 definitely worth a go, and of course XKR or XK definitely worth a go on one of those. Definitely worth it, but watch out for electronics on BMW 8 Series. Continental GT is now in here. I guess it's just about falling into the classic range. I think it's a bit early, but there you go. But I guess the prices have dipped. And then of course you got Mercedes SL. A solid machine, isn't it? So there you go, check that out. The right stuff. So this is where they collate writings and musings and reviews of a classic car through time. And in this case, they're looking at the Triumph Spitfire. That's the car there, and looking at what people said about it at the time. So that's always quite interesting. What else have we got? This is interesting. This is a very interesting feature. I quite like that one. That was about the fact 50 years ago, cars that you could buy, right, and race straight off the showroom floor. Like you could just go racing in them straight away. And the idea was that they would have to be all to manufacturer spec, although some were to more manufacturer spec than others. You know, like they say, everyone's equal, but some are more equal than others, and that's kind of what happened here. And the interesting thing about this, so these cars weren't racing until the rules tightened up and stuff like that. But it's interesting. Guess which car won this championship first time out? It was the Group 1 championship. It was the Russian Moskvich 412 Saloon. You check that out, and you can read why in that little box there. So you'll have to get the magazine to find out. Like, how was that car? How did that car manage to win 32 out of 33 races? That's extraordinary. So here it is, the second buying guide, which is for the modern Mini, as I did promise that the magazine also contains. So well worth getting this mag if you're thinking about buying that. And I was contemplating that as well myself, actually, because they were great to drive. You know, say what you like about them, but as soon as you put somebody into the driving seat and send them off for a 10-minute run or something, they would always come back grinning, going, yeah. And it didn't matter if it was the One or the Coupe or the Coupe S, they were all just great to drive. Mod the Mark, I like this feature. This is basically like how you rest a mod, a classic. So in this case, the Volvo P1800, you know, as made famous by Roger Moore as the Saint in that 60s TV series. And, you know, this has got things like, you know, what you can do to the engine, the suspension, wheels and tires, the interior trim, etc., and the transmission. So it tells you all of that. Starter motors, that's another good one. So this is like how if you're going to get into the classic scene, you want to buy a classic, you want to get into the classic scene, what should you consider? So you've got things like the Mini, modern Alphas, the modern 90s Lotus Elan, XJS, MGTF, Citroen 2CV, Triumph TR7, even the Mazda MX-5, I guess. You know, the early ones are certainly in there. But the Rover 75 MGZT, those were great cars, actually. I did enjoy having that. Air-cooled cars for Volkswagen. Then you've got, I think I missed a couple of pages there. Oh, actually more of that. Oh, and the Ford Mustang. See, the F-body, that's a good call. Well done, guys. Well done, team. That's a good call because that would not normally be picked up by a British mag. But the Fox body Mustangs, those ones are really coming along now. They're really picking up in value and they're becoming highly sought after and collectible. Much unloved for a very long time, but now suddenly they're cool. So that's a good call, that one. 944, 924s, of course, definitely. Dates and data, Volkswagen Transporter, Carbine. So there's basically everything you need to know about these. So that's all the information, what to look out for, you know, how they were made. There's a history in there as well. Still going strong, and also the newer VW van as well. Check this guy out. So this guy, Howard Harger, he swapped his modern hybrid Honda. There's a lot of H's here. Howard Hargate hybrid Honda except he dropped the H's altogether and he bought himself a Chrysler Avenger 1600 Estate. And this is how he got on with it. And he has not regretted that decision, apparently. So that should be an interesting read. Car of the Year. So previous Car of the Year winners. So they're going through those now and just looking back at them. So you've got like the Talbot Horizon. So I think that's going to be like a regular thing that they do. Fuel for Thought. So this is all about the E10 fuel, you know. And it's a lot of details. So if you're worried about E10 fuel, which I know a lot of people are, not just for classic cars, but even for older cars, because as they did say, you know, like every car after 2011 is definitely okay. 95% of petrol cars on the road are supposed to be okay. The cars before 2002 are said to not be okay. And then there's that gray area. And where does that leave classics? But even forget classics, even your own car before 2011, you might be worried. But here, there is what you can do about your classics. I mean, it needs a little bit of updating with hoses and stuff like that, a little bit of modernization. And overall, the conclusion is that, you know, it's not, you know, you may need to get some work done, but it's not something that's the end of the world. So that's a very reassuring read in the magazine there that you need to grab if you're concerned about that sort of stuff. Active damping. This is about active damping that you can put on a classic, available from Koni. So that's pretty cool. What else we've got? Protecting the heritage. This is a focus on a part supplier, in this case Volkswagen and Porsche Part Specialist and Heritage Center in West Sussex. So that's interesting. So that's look at all the stuff they've got. Yeah, should be able to get what you need there, right? Then there's some more columns and some market information here. I like the one that Jeff Bailey does about the insurance industry. And he talks about how classic car owners will often complain that their car isn't insured for the value that they think it's worth because, you know, they've spent X amount, 30, 40, 50 grand on restoring the car. And then the insurer says, yeah, but it's only worth 20 grand. And they're like, yeah, but we've just spent 50 grand on it. And they're like, well, too bad, but we have to insure it for the market rate. And it explains why that is. So if you wondered about that and you wondered, well, why can't I get it insured the way I want? Then that is explained in there. And then the Jeff Bailey again and the editor, Alan Anderson, go as before. They go head to head and argue about cars. And in this case, they're arguing about the Corvette and the C3 Corvette, in this case, Stingray. And I'm with Jeff on this one. I like him. Sorry, Alan. So there you go. Brilliant, brilliant magazine. Check it out. It should be in the shops. If you can't find it in the shops, best thing is just to go to GoClassics.co.uk and subscribe. Simple as that. Because you know what? You don't want to miss any of these. It's great. And plus, my column's in it. A big thank you to my top tier patron and sponsor, Jay Williams over Air Technic. Check out their shop for brakes, exhaust, body kits, and of course, suspension. Plus, thanks to Muhammad Ali Ahmed and Tom Conway Gordon, who are both tier 4 patrons. And of course, all of these guys for also subscribing to my Patreon account and contributing so much towards helping me to continue creating this content. Join them over at patreon.com/browncarguy. And of course, make sure that you are subscribing, liking, and sharing this channel. Hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any of my videos. And also, check out browncarguy.com and follow me on all social media channels. Just search for my hashtag, which of course is #BrownCarGuy.